1,000 years ago, in a hall on the Norwegian coast, one of the most feared warrior poets who ever lived was handed a bowl of curds and told there was no ale left. It was meant as an insult, a cheap host fobbing off a guest with the poor man's drink. What that host didn't understand is that he just served Egil Skallagrimsson the most nutrient-dense food on the entire table. The curds were Skyr, and Skyr is the reason Norse raiders could cross open ocean, march inland, and still fight with explosive power at the end of it. This is fermented milk, strained down to almost pure protein, and it solved a problem we now pay supplement companies billions to solve worse. That is the Skyr method. Stay with me, because by the end you'll understand why the thing in your grocery cooler right now is older, denser, and smarter than almost anything on the protein shelf. Let's talk about what's happening right now. Protein is having a moment. Protein bars, protein cereal, protein water, which shouldn't exist. Whey isolate in a plastic tub with a scoop the size of your fist. Young guys chasing 30 grams a meal through powders their great-grandparents wouldn't recognize as food. And look, the goal isn't wrong. Protein matters. But here's the part nobody selling you the tub mentions. We're using lab-engineered, artificially sweetened products to recreate something humans already solved with a bucket and a cloth. The problem was never getting enough protein. It's that we forgot the old way of concentrating it, so we buy it back in powder form at a markup. That's not innovation. That's amnesia with a price tag. So let's go back to the people who got it right. The Norse world ran on a brutal calendar, long dark winters, a short window to grow anything, and a way of life that demanded men row for days, march inland, and fight when they arrived. You cannot do that on a food supply that spoils. Fresh milk is a miracle in summer and worthless in a week. So the Norse did something elegant. They turned the milk into a bank. They fermented it, strained it, and concentrated it into Skyr, a thick, tangy, protein-dense food that lasted, traveled, and fed hard-working bodies through the lean months. Historical accounts describe Skyr as a staple of the Icelandic diet from the very first Norse settlement, roughly 1,100 years ago. It shows up by name in the sagas, and it shows up in the story of Egil. Egil Skallagrimsson was real. Born in Iceland around the year 910, into a family the sagas describe as so tall and strong that no one could match them. He was, by every account, an ugly, ill-tempered, terrifying man. He was also one of the greatest poets of the age. He composed verse as a child. He fought for the English king Athelstan. He was a berserker in the oldest sense of the word, a man who went into battle like a force of weather. And in the saga, when a stingy steward named Bard tries to insult him by serving only skyr while hiding the ale, Egil doesn't just shrug it off. He repays the insult in blood. But here's the part the storyteller didn't know he was telling us. The insult drink, the curds, was the best fuel in the building. And here's what makes Egil the perfect anchor. Most saga heroes die by the sword, young and violent. Egil didn't. He grew old, went blind, stumbled around his farm, and died in his bed of old age, which the sources themselves note is a strange, rare fate for a warrior like him. He outlived nearly every fighter of his generation. Now, I'm not going to tell you a bowl of curds made him immortal. That's not how this works. But a man built on dense, whole food protein and fermented dairy, living the most physical life imaginable, lasting decades past his peers, that's worth sitting with. Now let's kill the obvious worry before it grows, because this is a food video. And the first question is always safety. Is fermented dairy actually safe to build a diet around? This is maybe the easiest yes I can give you. Skyr has been eaten continuously in Iceland for about 1,100 years. That is an unbroken millennium-long safety record, which is more than you can say for anything with a scoop in it. It's on supermarket shelves in the United States, the United Kingdom, and across Europe right now. The fermentation itself is a safety feature. The lactic acid bacteria that culture the milk drop the pH and actively suppress the organisms that cause spoilage. The one real caveat, and I want to be clear about this, is that a diagnosed milk protein allergy is a hard stop. That is different from lactose intolerance. If you're lactose intolerant, you may actually handle Skyr well, because straining and fermentation strip out a lot of the lactose. But a true casein or whey allergy means this food is not for you. For everyone else, this is about as gentle and proven as ancestral nutrition gets. So let's get into what Skyr actually is, because this is where most people get it completely wrong. Skyr is not yogurt. I know it sits next to the yogurt and looks like yogurt. It is not yogurt. Technically, Skyr is a fresh cheese, and that difference is the entire point of the method. To make it, you start with skimmed milk. You warm it, cool it to roughly body temperature, and introduce live bacterial cultures, traditionally saved from the last batch and passed down like a sourdough starter, sometimes with a little rennet. Then you let it ferment for several hours while the bacteria sour and thicken it. That's step one. The magic is step two. You strain that fermented mass. You pour it into cloth and let the whey, the thin liquid the Norse called mysa, drain away for hours. What's left is dense, thick enough that a spoon stands up in it, thick enough to turn the bowl over without it falling. And that thickness isn't texture for show. That thickness is concentrated protein. Here's the number that should stop you. It takes roughly 3 to 4 times more milk to make Skyr than it does to make the same amount of regular yogurt. You are straining 3 to 4 cups of milk down into a single cup of Skyr. Everything watery leaves. Everything valuable stays. The result is around 11 grams of protein per 100 grams, compared to about 3.5 in regular yogurt. A standard serving delivers roughly 17 grams of protein for about 100 calories. That is not a snack. That is a protein delivery system that happens to taste good, and the Norse wasted nothing. That drained off whey, the mysa, they drank it. They used it to preserve other food. Nothing about the system leaked value. Compare that to the modern version, where we strain milk, extract the protein, spray dry it into powder, add sweeteners and gums, and throw the rest out. They got the same concentration with the cloth and gravity. Let me give you something to feel right now, because I want this to stop being abstract. If you have Skyr in your fridge, go get a spoonful. If you don't, do this next time you do. Put it in your mouth, but before you swallow, press it against the roof of your mouth and hold it there for a slow count of 5. Feel the weight of it. Feel how it coats instead of runs, how thick and dense it sits on your tongue compared to anything else in the dairy aisle. That density you're feeling is 3 to 4 cups of milk collapsed down into 1 spoonful. You are literally tasting concentration. That single sensation is the whole method. Everything the Norse engineered is right there on your tongue. Now here's why that concentrated protein matters, and this is where it stops being folklore and starts being biology. Think about that deep, dragging ache you feel the day after you've hauled something heavy or trained hard. That ache is your muscle repairing microscopic tears, and that repair runs on protein, delivered steadily over hours. This is where a Skyr does something clever that a lot of single-source proteins can't. Skyr contains both of milk's proteins at once. It has whey, the fast one, which floods your system quickly to kickstart repair. And it has casein, the slow one, which digests gradually and keeps a steady drip of amino acids flowing for hours afterward. Fast ignition and slow burn in one food. That casein piece is why this matters for the way real bodies actually work. Controlled research on protein type and muscle recovery shows that the profile of the protein, not just the amount, shapes how well muscle rebuilds. Casein's slow release is exactly why it's the protein people reach for before a long gap without food, like overnight. And that steady drip, that's the same reason a Norse rower could pull for hours without bonking. That's the deep ache from a moment ago finally getting fed on a schedule that actually matches how repair works. There's a second mechanism, and it's about staying powered without crashing. Protein this dense triggers your body's real satiety, signals, hormones with names like GLP-1 and PYY. The same fullness system the entire modern weight loss industry is now trying to imitate with drugs. Combine that hormonal signal with the physically thick, strained texture, and Skyr keeps you full and steady for hours. No spike, no crash. With around 17 grams of protein against just a few grams of carbohydrate, it barely moves your blood sugar. Picture what that means for a raider. Steady output across a long, brutal day. No sugar high, no mid-afternoon collapse, just sustained, even power. The thing modern life is desperate to buy in a syringe. They were eating out of a wooden bucket. And then there's the fermentation itself, which is doing more than just preserving. Those lactic acid bacteria don't only protect the milk. As they ferment, they start breaking down the milk proteins, which makes them easier for your body to digest and absorb. Reviews of fermented dairy connect it to gut health, bone density, and better weight management, and large studies associate high fermented milk intake with better long-term health outcomes. I want to be careful. That's an association, not a magic bullet. But the pattern is consistent, and it points back at a food humans have leaned on for 1,000 years. The bacteria pre-digest some of the work for you. Your body just shows up and collects. So let's clear up the confusion around this food, because there's a lot of it. The biggest myth is the one I already hit. People think Skyr is just fancy Icelandic yogurt. It isn't. It's a strained fresh cheese made from several times the milk, and that's precisely why it carries triple the protein. Calling it yogurt sells the whole thing short. The second myth is bigger, and it's about the Vikings themselves. Popular culture wants the Norse to be pure carnivores, all meat and fat, a kind of ancient keto fantasy. The archaeology says the opposite. Analysis of Norse settlements shows a genuinely mixed diet: grains, fish, vegetables, and dairy. So no, they did not live on Skyr alone. Skyr was one piece of a broader system, but it was the piece that solved the hardest problem of all: how to carry high-quality protein through a winter and across an ocean without it rotting. And here's the last myth, the one that should sting a little. We think you need a lab and a shaker bottle to hit your protein. 1,000 years ago, people out-densified most of your protein snacks with a bucket, a cloth, and some patience. And that exact food is sitting in your grocery store right now. Which brings me to the thing we actually lost. We didn't lose access to protein. We're drowning in protein. What we lost was the knowledge that whole, unprocessed food, handled with a little intelligence, already does everything the supplement aisle promises. The Norse didn't concentrate protein because a coach told them their macros were low. They did it because their environment demanded a food that was dense, portable, and preserved. And they solved it completely, with tools you could find in any farmhouse. Modern life didn't improve on that. It just wrapped the same idea in plastic, added sweetener, and sold it back to us as a breakthrough. So here's how you actually use this. Buy plain Skyr. Plain. This is the most important instruction in this whole video, because flavored versions can carry as much added sugar as a dessert, and that sugar defeats the entire purpose. Read the label. You want live and active cultures, a short ingredient list, and as close to zero added sugar as you can find. Store brands are fine if the label checks out. For lean, dense protein, go non-fat, the highest protein for the fewest calories. If you're training hard and want richer fuel, whole milk gives you more staying power and better absorption of the fat-soluble vitamins. Timing is simple. A serving within about 2 hours of training hits that whey and casein window. A serving at night lets the casein feed your muscles while you sleep. And because Skyr has zero fiber, pair it the way the Norse effectively did, with berries, a spoon of oats, a little honey. That adds fiber, slows the sugar further, and it's about as close as you'll get to how it was actually eaten. One warning, so you don't waste the effort. The number one way people ruin this is by buying the sweetened tub and turning a warrior's protein into a candy cup. The second way is treating it as dessert instead of fuel. Don't. Treat it like what it is: concentrated, preserved, whole food protein, engineered by people who could not afford to get nutrition wrong. 1,000 years ago, a poet warrior was handed a bowl of curds as an insult, and it was quietly the best thing in the room. Today, you can walk into any store, pick that same food off the shelf for a couple of dollars, and most people walk right past it on their way to the powder. The Norse didn't have a supplement industry. They had a cloth, some patience, and a food that outlasted the men who ate it. That knowledge survived 1,100 years for a reason. If this changed how you see the stuff in your cooler, subscribe, because we are breaking down the ancestral fuel behind these warrior cultures, one food at a time. And tell me in the comments, what ancient diet method do you want broken down next?